All right, everybody, welcome back. We're here with Michael Wilson from Ponywolf, and today we are going to continue the series of videos that we started back with the Match 3 Space. What was it? Match 3 Space RPG.
Space RPG. Like, let's get as many different genres as possible into one thing.
Yeah, so if you guys aren't familiar with that, you can go to the Corona Marketplace and you can actually download it. It's a free game template. Michael and his team have created that is modular based, meaning there are pieces of it that you can just copy paste into your project and start using. So we'll put a link in the show notes to it. And there is a whole video series that goes along with that. It explains how everything works. On the heels of that, we are actually going to move from modular concepts into using Tiled as a level editor / tool for just basically setting things up and getting things working. Michael, thanks for being here and thanks for sharing your knowledge with us.
Hey, no worries. Great to be here. Yeah, I mean, it's really interesting. We talked about this before the show, but we use Tiled at Ponywolf for nearly everything visual, right? So most of us who have done game development, especially in Corona or any other more programming or code-oriented game development, you do a lot of loading images, a lot of placing images by X and Y coordinates, or if you're smart, maybe you do an X and Y coordinate offset by the center of the screen or the upper left-hand corner of the screen or lower right-hand corner of the screen to make sure that the objects that you place in snap all different kinds of screen coordinates. And a lot of times you'll have, at least I used to find, kind of just setting up a scene inside of Corona that I may have, 25 or 30 different image load commands, image placement commands, setting various properties, simple ones like, is this thing visible or not visible? Today we use Tiled, which is itself a tile map editor. But also supports placement, rotation, and properties of regular just kind of image objects. So what we're going to try to do right now is kind of show you how to get Tiled installed, show you some of the features of it, and then talk about specifically how we can use Tiled for Corona projects. That makes sense. So getting Tiled, and this has actually become a lot easier. There's a URL, mapeditor.org. that I recommend checking out for information, documentation. If you want to dig into the file formats that is supported by Tiled, it's a great place to do it. There's forums where other users can help you out. A really, really great community here, just kind of focused on the tool of putting it together, not necessarily focused on any one particular game engine. And the number one kind of use of Tiled, and the reason why it was created, is to basically build maps out of individual little graphics that we call Tiled. And inside of Corona, we have something called a sprite sheet, and those sprite sheets have different frames inside the sprite sheet. So you can look at Tiled as a quick and easy way to take the different frames inside of a sprite sheet, organize them on a nice grid here, and build a world that's larger than what you could build by doing, say, a huge, 4,000 by 4,000 image, right? That's really only going to get you maybe 2 or 3 screens worth of play space. But by putting these little tiles together, you can have a limitless amount of map for your video game characters, heroes, players to run around on. As Tiled has kind of grown, it's added a lot of other features, and some of these features are the ability to put vector objects in. So you can see these little arrows being drawn on. Obviously, Corona has support for drawing vectors, but also here you see some coins that are placed kind of not on the grid and placed a little bit more organically, and Tiled has the ability to do that as well. So not just kind of these repeatable patterns there, but also kind of objects there. And then unsupported, but still cool nevertheless, Tiled has the ability to build isometric maps. Those of you who loved Diablo 1, Diablo 2 as a kid, or for me, a young adult maybe, it has the ability to put together diamond-shaped tiles and snap those together to create worlds. So that's kind of a general overview of what you can do with Tiled. Let's talk about how we get it installed. So like I said, you can go to mapeditor.org and go to the download button. The download button will actually just take you to itch.io, which is a great and easy way to download the map editor. As you can see, there's a Linux, OS X, and Windows Windows, both 32 and 64-bit version. For those Windows users, I highly recommend you stay in the 32-bit version. We've just had some stability issues with the 64-bit version. Of course, your mileage may vary on that. This is a free software, but if you click the download button, it will have a recommended price that you can pay for it. At Pony Wolf, we do that on a monthly basis. So we're just going to take me to the downloads, and you'll see these different pieces. Once you've installed a version of Tiled, it's a pretty modern application. It'll notify you of new versions within the app and update accordingly. It seems that if a new point release comes out about every other month, and then major releases come out about every 6 to 8 months. I have already downloaded it, so we'll just go straight on to the tool. And first, we'll just go through and talk a little bit about tiles in general before we get to kind of the more Corona use of it. So as you can see here, in general, Tiled has 4 main windows that pop up. The first is your view, and this is, people are really familiar with code editors or anything. There's a tabbed view. You can obviously go in and load multiple maps, switch back and forth between the two. Maps of the same size and style, so flat maps like this, you can actually cut and paste between maps. So it has a very general workflow. We also have a properties editor. This allows us to assign properties to items inside our world. And these are great for custom properties, or obviously some properties that aren't custom, opacity being one of them here. I'm going to move the opacity around on this whole layer. But if we have a custom property we want to put in, say hit points for an enemy, the kind of physics you want on an object, so on and so forth, these custom properties are where you do that. And then the last one, I'll move this actually up to the top, is our tile set. And in this tile set, you can see, it's very simple. It's just little tiles that you can then take the stamp tool and kind of place in the map. And it allows us to basically build a little visual representation of our map. One of the other things that Tiled has is the ability to work in layers. So anybody used to working in Photoshop will be very used to this. So I can make another layer, call this a test layer, and I can grab items and put on this other layer. I can hide and show that layer. I can even go in with a move tool and kind of move that layer in perspective with everything else that's within the map. I can copy layers, I can delete layers, hide layers temporarily, show layers temporarily. I can also control the opacity of layers. So let's say I want to put some, we'll make a new layer real quick. So that was a copy. I'll make a new layer real quick, and I'll put some signs over here on the second layer. And then I can go and adjust the opacity of that layer and make the signs kind of half transparent or not. So I think that pretty much covers it for tiles. Now, we won't be doing a lot of work in our platformer in the tiles part of Tiled. We'll be doing it more in the objects part of Tiled, which is what we'll cover next.